Hi there, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids coming to you live from my car. And I've got this new little holder that I'm sort of excited about. So now I don't have to hold the phone with these. I wanted to talk to you today about frustration. And as you know, I'm in my car a lot because I am traveling to see little people. And this morning, a mom said to me, a mom of a child who's been in speech therapy for about 6 to 8 months, said he's getting so frustrated. And she seemed a little bit worried about it and wanted to make sense of that. And I smiled a big smile and I said, "That is amazing." And she looked at me like I had 10 heads and said, "Why?" So here's why. Now, it's a double-edged sword, so we'll get into that in a second. Frustration means that your child is trying to do something that they don't yet know how to do. And so that when you see your child getting frustrated, it's the moment to celebrate and say, they're trying to do something. They want, they can't yet have. And so when you see that frustration happen, the only reason that's happening is because they're shooting a little too high, and that's okay. Frustration is just the next step after motivation. And so for that reason, we want to celebrate it, and then we want to recalibrate and maybe change the environment. And I'll tell you about that in a second, so that your kiddo doesn't stay in the frustration for long. But the fact that they are feeling frustrated only means they've got lofty goals that they will accomplish. And so that's a minute just to celebrate. Okay, so what do you do though? Because here's what happens, right? And whether your child is 2 years old or whether your child is 4 years old, they're trying to do something new. They can't do it. They persevere. And then they start to fall apart because they are feeling like they're never going to get it. It's never going to go their way. And And at that moment, as a parent, it's really easy when you see your child start to crumple. It's really easy to want to jump in and say, "Hi, Katina, thanks so much for being here." It's so easy as a parent to want to fix the moment of frustration. And if you've been doing this a while, you know where that line is. You know when your child is going to cross from motivation into frustration, and you sort of watch it happen, and it's a little bit like a train wreck, right? You're like, oh gosh, I don't know what, okay, here it comes. So I got a little bit off track for a second. I'm going to regather my thoughts. So your temptation is to want to fix it. You cannot fix it for them, but what you can do is change the emotional environment a little bit, maybe change the physical environment a little bit, so that they can come back down into motivation and finish the task. And so how do you do that? You can do that by showing them that it's really, really, really okay to feel that uncomfortable frustration. You have to, as a parent, take a deep breath, avoid that issue, avoid that feeling of wanting to fix it, right? Because your baby is in pain. And when they're infants, of course, it is in fact our job to solve every one of their single problems because they can't solve them themselves. When we have a 2-year-old who wants to open the toy and they can't, and they're getting frustrated, we don't want to just open the toy for them. We don't want them to know, and again, this is a fine line, and you have to calibrate this with respect to your own child, because some kids have a really long fuse for frustration. They can stay in that motivational period a really long time, and some kids can't. And so you've got to know your child, but we're not going to just go around doing everything for everybody just because they can't do it yet, right? We're growing little adults here. We're growing, well, hopefully big adults. So we have to be teaching them and teaching them and teaching them. And so when your child is frustrated because they can't open the darn box, you can jump in and say, oh man, and be with them in the feeling. Be with them, show them that you can feel frustrated too, that you are feeling frustrated with them, in solidarity with them. And step out of the fixer role and into the companion role, the sort of emotional companion role of showing your child that it's okay to feel frustrated. It's something that it happens to us. It happens to grown-ups all the time. And getting through it and navigating it is something that, your child will learn to do, and they will learn it faster if you show them how to do it. If you show them that, oh, this is such a big feeling that you're having. Oh, it's so frustrating. So that's the first part. If you see your kids start to edge up past motivation into that frustration, you just name it. You name it. And we tend not to name, hi Amy, thanks for being here. We tend not to name the bad feelings. And we really should, because they're part of our human experience. And so frustration, again, in this case, we're talking about frustration, but take sadness, take any number of other things. They happen. We feel them. And wouldn't we like to teach our children what those things are? And again, this is how frustration and speech and language go together, right? We want to name that feeling, because when we name something, it is no longer big and scary and unnameable. It's nameable. We know what it is. Oh, I'm feeling frustrated. Oh, I hate being frustrated. Yeah, nobody likes to be frustrated. And you can have this narrative with even your 2-year-old, even your younger than 2-year-old. They will pick up on the emotional cues, even if they don't understand the language. And they will then hear that word, know that word, carry it forward. Okay, but let's talk about how to resolve the frustration too, because I know that it can be very stressful, because you're watching your child suffer to some degree. And I do want to give you something that you can do to make it sort of better. And so one thing, I know I use I'm thinking of a shape sorter, like a little box that opens and you can take the shapes out and then put the shapes back in. That's a toy I use a lot in therapy. One thing that you can do, rather than just opening it for your child if they want to open it, is just provide that next level of support so that they can be successful. And so that's where I want you to be thinking about when you're trying to change the environment a little bit and create conditions under which your child can go back down to motivation instead of staying at frustration, is to just tweak something in the environment just a teeny little bit, right? Excuse me. Just a teeny little bit. So maybe you slide the top of the box open halfway, and then you you encourage them to slide it off the rest of the way. Or you take your child's hand and you physically help them. Actually, my brother-in-law the other day told me a funny story about his 2-year-old who, funny after the fact, who climbed up the climber and then didn't know how to get down and was very, very frustrated and finally just jumped off the thing, which was terrifying. But again, that feeling of frustration, right? What could he do? And in fact, he did this. He caught her. Okay, so he provided that scaffold, the support that she needed to then come down. Then when they did it a second time, he provided even more support and showed her how to get down so that she could then learn it. So again, when we're trying to resolve frustration, you just want to change, just go half a step. Don't go whole hog. Don't take the top off the I was going to say off the pouch, but I don't want you guys to use pouches. But don't take the top off the food all the way. Just unscrew it a little bit. Especially if you know that your child is motivated to unscrew a lid for something. Great. They need to practice that. They want to work on that. They're motivated to do that. Now, if they go up past motivation into frustration, again, first thing you're going to do is show them it's okay to be frustrated. Yeah, that stinks. I don't like that either. That makes me mad. And show them that it's okay. And then make a small change that's going to allow them to come back down and continue to persevere. So, those are my thoughts on frustration and motivation and language development. And if you have questions, if you have comments, I'd love to hear them in the comment section. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.